Give me the pussy, please. Today, we will discover architecture school. I know many of you are in high school right now and still deciding on what to go to for in college. I know many of you are also contemplating going into architecture school. Architecture school is strenuous, but not as strenuous as a STEM major such as an engineering. I can't say that it is like that, but it is definitely more time consuming. The reason I can confidently say that is because I actually have a degree in architectural studies and design and engineering, mechanical engineering to be precise. I've learned from experience and can understand that coming into an architectural school or even engineering school, that'll be for another video, but coming into an architectural school can be very daunting for just a little high schooler that doesn't really know what they're doing. However, if you're transferring in from a different school, a different architecture school, to a different architecture school, you didn't switch majors, in other words, then this video doesn't really apply to you because you already know what's up. But if you're a high schooler applying, or if you're a person who is applying from a different major into a program, regardless of what school it is, as long as it's architecture, then this video is for you. First, I want you to think about what you think architecture school is like. Got a thought? Well, there's actually a documentary on this already. It pretty accurately describes it, and when I was in architecture school it was produced, and it's called Architeculture. I'm going to put the link down below for you. I definitely highly recommend watching that after this video, of course. Architecture, in a nutshell, is the creation of space in all of its forms. The good, the bad, the ugly, the horny. You'll be learning a multitude of subjects ranging from CAD drafting to hand drafting. They still do that. Design, art, architectural history, calculus, though you might only be taking calculus 1 unless that's changed recently, and materials and structures, the good stuff. The main theme throughout architecture school is creating a project in your design courses that will then be judged by a bunch of people. You go to a critique. The jurors will give you your grade and they will criticize you in any way that they can, honestly. And it's your job to form a rebuttal and express why you did what you did in your design and why not this instead, for example. It's your justifications that will prove whether or not you have good design methodology, which is the basis of architecture school. Many architecture schools is strictly design, more so than others. Some of them, I know, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in Troy, New York, they focus more on the technology aspect of things, but hell, their mascot are the engineers, for crying out loud. So it's pretty obvious there. But generally, it's more of a studio arts-based design curriculum for architecture schools. Throughout your undergraduate degree, you'll be going through different levels of design, different levels of math, different levels of physics. Ultimately, it's just a wash, rinse, repeat cycle with each notch at each level going up, getting a little bit tougher and tougher. If you're going into a master's program in architecture, it's very similar. The only difference being that the school is definitely a lot more professional now that you're in graduate school. And you'll also have a thesis, but that's not to say you didn't have a thesis in your undergrad. It's pretty much simpler. It's just identical. It's tougher and it's shorter, but that's graduate school. Everyone works in a studio. You make great friendships. You have nights that you'll always remember because many of those nights you're going to be up all night. It's honestly just part of the major. In that previous school I mentioned, which I did not go to, by the way, I'm not just pulling it out of a hat. Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, Troy, New York, they have a building called the Green Building. It's the architectural studio building. The lights never shut off for a good reason too. There's always one student there doing work all night. It's just a time-consuming major. But the people who are up all night, you know that they are passionate, and that could be you too. I don't mean to scare you at all. If anything, I'm hoping that this excites you. Well, Gerald, and how do I get in, you may ask yourself? Well, great question, you dirtbags. First and foremost, our grades. That one you kind of already knew already though, so next on the list is your personal statement or essay. That is to say if they actually require one. Not all schools require one of those. But don't skimp on this part because this is your opportunity to differentiate yourself, to humanize your application. Right now you're just a set of statistics, but once you breathe a little life into it using some words that tell who you are, your story, you may be able to even say why your grades weren't on par to where they should have been. It's very important. I will delve deeper into this into another video in the future. Okay, so the most important though is your portfolio. They will require a little selection of a portfolio or just selection of art that you're just going to have to turn into them. You're just going to have to show them your thought processes because it's really the only way, and it'll show them how you will do in their studios. Any kind of work that shows how your mind works is fair game in this, honestly. I will delve deeper into this soon, but first I'm going to show you a few works that you will produce in architecture school, types of examples of works. You won't be producing my exact works, but I will be showing you my portfolio to show you what your work could be like. Keep note that this is an old portfolio during my first couple of years of architecture school, and a portfolio is very important because it's what you will be applying to a graduate program with if you want to continue, or more importantly what you will be showing your future employer. It will let them see your thought processes, see if you have a little attention to detail, see if you like to put little hash marks on your arrows, on your dimensions, little things that can make and break an interview, or like the opportunity to have an interview, or an employment opportunity. On top of all that, the architectural portfolio, it just shows that you're competent in design and computers, and proof that you actually went to architecture school. Because if you're doing all this design work and you're not documenting it, then it's not really like you even went to design or architecture school at all. It just doesn't really make sense why you wouldn't. So that is the epitome of your architecture school and design work. Well, let's begin, shall we? Before we start, we'll take a look at this title page. This is from an old portfolio of mine, and you can see that it's just minimalistic in design. You'll be given a lot of different tools, and you'll also have to find a lot of tools on your own in order to create title pages such as this, or a layout in a portfolio such as this. But they're equally important because they are the surface of your work. Hey, what's going on? So this is the first piece of work that I'm going to show you today. It's based upon a seasonal quartet. As you can tell by the colors and hues, this is autumn. This was a project that we had to create and present at the end of the semester along with 3 other projects, which we'll get to shortly. Basically, we would present them all and our final grade would be based upon that, in addition to an individual grade that we were given for each singular one. And this is one of the things that architecture can let you do. Well, architecture school anyway. In actual real world architecture, you gotta be like Frank Gehry, for example, or, Bjarke Ingels, a starchitect, until you can really do whatever the heck you want with whatever budget you have. But in the end, it really matters what the client wants. So unless you're just, rich and want to design your own house. But this just isn't how the real world works. Which is why architecture school is pretty awesome. You get to have a lot of freedom because it's the only time you'll really be able to have it until you're rich, famous, or have a lot of power in some sort of way. And now we have winter, the second in the quartet, equally as detailed and a lot of work put into this one as well. It was fun in architecture school to create these for sure. You can just see these little exploded diagrams I created showing the little sections and floor plans and an elevation. And, these different projects that you're given, I won't lie, I miss. And here's spring, a few rendering errors here, which you're going to have to definitely fix up on your final presentations, but due to time constraints that you're given in architecture school, I wasn't able to patch it up right away. So this one I'm not particularly proud of. I do like the colors, however. And now we have summer. This one was the final piece in the quartet. As you can see, There's an exploded section. There's a section. There is a elevation, perspective, of course, and the terrain gradient up to the side on the right there. These do take quite some time to do, but through our architecture school, you will learn how to use your tools, or you will learn them on your own using YouTube. And now I'll just go through a couple other projects of mine just to give you a little more of an idea of the broadness of architecture school. This one happens to be a transportation hub. We were given that shape in the bottom middle there, and we were to extrude it and manipulate it using CAD software, and then repeat it multiple times in parallel to each other in order to create an interesting form. You can see in the middle images that I actually ran some LEDs through it, so this one was particularly fun, especially to photograph. And now here's a project I was known for throughout the school. It's basically a homeless shelter. The problem was that we were given a scenario where a homeless man needed to travel, so we needed to create a portable homeless shelter. But this also had to be made out of cardboard just to make it even tougher on us. So our professor made us really think hard about this because the designs we came up with were not very practical at all. But I just capitalized on the idea of portability and created a foldable backpack that expanded to, I'd say, about 11 feet. It wasn't very warm, but portability was emphasized in this design. And you gotta work with what you have in design school. And here's another architectural project I'm showing you. We were given a cube. I believe the dimensions were foot by foot by foot, that we were to construct different spatial arrangements to emphasize hierarchy, precedent, whatever else we could base our design upon. The only point of this project was that we had to justify a good reason, which is the theme throughout architecture school. And with this, you're given such an abstract art-like project that it really works that creative muscle for you. This project was particularly fun. So basically, you're going to want to apply with many creative works in order to get into an architecture school. The better you can express your creative works, your creativity in general, the likelier you are to get into the school that you want to get into. So anything can really be shown, from sculptures to paintings to drawings, any type of art medium really. If you can write a poem, anything that can show them how your brain works just a little bit, because that'll translate to design work. And they just really want to see that. They want to see a blueprint for how you're going to perform in their design classes. So here we have the first drawing, which you can see is Marilyn Manson. It's rendered in black ink, and I must say I'm pretty proud of it. It took a lot of time. It's on 18-inch by 24-inch sketch film, but this is one of the things I applied with. It took a long time to draw, I'd say about 7 hours, but this is the kind of effort they want to see. And you know, I didn't do this specially. This was just a hobby that I had before, and I just really enjoyed drawing. So they want to see that you do this stuff outside of school too, in order to justify putting you in their school, to show that you already have the motivation when you're not needed in motivation, if that makes any sense. Here's another sketch that I did. This one's particularly bigger, I'd say though. I'd say it's a 24-inch by 36-inch observation sketch that I did of my cousin. And this one did take a lot of time, only because I couldn't get my cousin to sit still. And it was just on blue pen ink on sketch film once again. And again, this is just another thing that showed my creativity and my thought process and just the focus that I had that they wanted to see. Any kind of creative art medium is game to apply to an architecture school, remember, as I've said before, but this is just another example. Well, and that's it, folks. I hope I was a help to you, and this was just a basic idea of architecture school that I wanted to present to you. I hope that you understand now what you're getting yourself into, and I will get deeper in on a personal statement for college essays later. That'll be a separate video, but at least you have an idea now about architecture school. I'll also throw in some tips on softwares, how to do certain things and manipulate different softwares, in case for those people who are already in architecture school who want to learn a little bit more. But for now, I hope you guys have a good night. It's a pleasure speaking to you, Gerald out.
Yeah.